It's weird but true. Temperatures are changing much faster at the Earth's poles than elsewhere on the planet. This polar amplification is more pronounced in the Arctic, which has warmed almost 4 times faster than the rest of the planet since the 1870s. That's why I've heard so many times that, quote, there's no climate change deniers in Alaska. Now, I'm not sure if that's actually exactly true, but I do take the point. For people who live above the Arctic Circle, climate change is everywhere. There are several different reasons why temperature change is concentrated at the poles, but one of them illustrates an important concept in climate science. It's called a positive feedback. This means that warming in the area feeds on itself, causing more warming. Let me explain. Under pre-warming conditions, the Arctic had a lot of ice, more than it does now, including sea ice, which is ice lying over ocean water rather than land. Polar ice is shiny and white, so when the sun's energy strikes it, the ice reflects most of that incoming energy back out to space. To help you imagine this, think about when you were a kid. Did you ever walk outside barefoot in the summer? If you had lived in town, do you remember the feeling of the hot black asphalt on your feet? Maybe you remember tiptoeing to a white sidewalk or some white painted lines to help keep your feet from burning. Well, sea ice works the same way, by bouncing that energy away like that white paint. On the other hand, the water without ice is like the asphalt, which absorbs much, much more energy. Land surfaces do the same thing, so losing ice cover leads to increasing the local temperature both in the water and on land. And of course, this leads to more melting, so the warming causes more warming, and that's what a feedback is. It's one of the ways that what happens in the Arctic doesn't stay in the Arctic. Losing Arctic sea ice is an important loss of one of the controls on the warming of the rest of the planet. Of course, polar ice does more than just reflect energy. Many species of Arctic wildlife depend on sea ice for their life cycles, including many iconic favorites, as well as marine life that we enjoy as seafood. Arctic ice also has other important roles for people. For people living on the Alaskan coast, sea ice has always provided protection from the erosive action of the ocean. Without interference from sea ice, stronger storms and higher waves batter the coast. In some areas, this newly exposed coastline has been experiencing catastrophic erosion as well as damage to roads, buildings, and infrastructure. While that ice is protecting people locally from some harsh effects, it seems it also protecting other people from another danger, winter cold. During my time of living in the northern Great Plains, we've had generally pretty manageable winters with some very notable exceptions. Occasionally, an extreme cold snap moves across the country with terrible low temperatures, brutal winds, and sometimes a lot of snow. Often, the news reports of these blizzards lately have been peppered with the words polar vortex. This term points to a complicated situation that's only now beginning to be really understood, but it links polar ice melt with extreme cold events at the mid-latitudes, including in North America. The basic principle is this. The polar vortex is a band of wind that normally encircles the Arctic region, helping the polar jet stream to hold the cold Arctic air in place. When the polar vortex is disrupted, it allows the jet stream to become wavy, and this lets that cold air move south. It's kind of like, without the polar vortex holding it in place, that Arctic air just spills southward into areas that are not accustomed to being that cold. Meanwhile, the Arctic ice is shaking up global geopolitics by bringing countries closer. I'm talking about the effects of ice on transportation through the Arctic Circle. Look at this map of the region, looking at the globe from the north. Of the 8 countries that extend into the Arctic region, one stands out as dominant in terms of land area, Russia. And at its closest point in the Bering Sea, Russia is only 55 miles from the United States at Cape Prince of Wales, Alaska. Less ice on the Arctic Ocean would drastically change military and national security dynamics involving Russia, China, the US, Canada, and Europe. This is not only due to our increased vulnerability to attack in that area, but also because of a surge in interest in using that part of the ocean for international shipping, as well as in the incredible wealth of natural resources that have long lain hidden, inaccessible under all that ice. Since the ice has been melting, more and more valuable reserves of oil and minerals have been discovered, so staking claims to these treasures threatens geopolitical tension. This new reality in the Arctic is recognized by the United States military. They are working to understand how new policies and strategies can help our country to be ready for this new set of threats and opportunities. This, of course, affects all of us in so many ways. As a military mom, I don't have to use much imagination to feel close to this issue, but our country's security is not something any of us can ignore.